Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest, Gregory Alan Cain, who's here to share with us ghost stories from haunted prisons. Behind the walls of Mule Creek, Folsom, and San Quentin Prison, fear takes many forms, and not all of them are human. Former correctional officer Gregory Alan Cain shares true, spine-chilling accounts of unexplained events that occurred during his years working in California's most notorious prisons. From shadowy figures darting around, chattering voices in empty locked cells, to eerie experiences that no one could explain. Gregory recounts moments that defy reason, that had even the most seasoned officers questioning what they'd witnessed. Gregory Alan Cain is a retired California correctional peace officer and United States Navy veteran with a distinguished 25-year career at Mule Creek, Folsom, and San Quentin state prisons. He spent 17 years in the Navy Reserve Service and now serves as the Chief Operating Officer of Cain's Legal Support and Cain & Company Publishing, where he's a #1 internationally published author and continues his work in law as an officer of the court. So welcome to the show, Gregory Alan Cain.
Good afternoon, Marianne. Nice to be here.
Well, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about just the experiences that you've had. But before we dive really into that, what first drew you to work as a correctional officer?
Well, I was always trying to take state exams for the city, county, state. I wanted a state job because I was driving an armored truck at the time, and I was always taking these exams, but there'd be 1,000 participants taking the exam only for 100 positions, and it's like your odds are very rare. You're not going to get the job because they were just taking the top 100 of 1,000 participants, test takers. Oh man, it was incredible. So I was doing that, bouncing around test sites and not getting anywhere. Then one day I was driving the armored truck with my partner and we were in Vacaville, California. And we stopped at this Vasquez's restaurant to get a little bit of food there. And when I noticed a big old CDC bus, like a Greyhound bus, pulls up right in front of the place. And I can see it's loaded up with 300 people, inmates, and locked up inside there. This partner of the driver in that thing, runs out. He's in a jumpsuit, but he's running in his socks into the restaurant. 5 minutes later, he comes out with all the food for him and his partners. And I was saying, now that's the job I need right there. I need to have that kind of job, right? So I looked in. That was the reason why I looked in corrections, because I said that's something I could really do. And so I that's what I pursued. I took the test, and before you know it, you're deep into it. You're doing the medical, you're doing the lie detector test, doing the psych exam, the interviews. Before you know it, I was going to Galt Academy that quick.
Man, that really did go very quickly. And before we even get started, I wanted to thank you for your service because I know before this you were in the Navy, right?
Yeah, I did 4 years active. Then I did the rest of 17 years reserves, and that was very incredible because I was like the gate. I closed down bases. Basically, when they shut down the bases in California, I was like the last man leaving. So I was a jack of all trades in the Navy. I was an air crewman on a C-130. I was on the Nimitz, Carl Vinson, and Ranger. But it was all reserve work. So you go out to sea for 2 weeks and go back to your regular job. So that's what I did in the Navy.
So, did you get to choose where you wanted to work as a correctional officer?
No, you didn't. But when I went in back then, 90, basically they give you 3 opportunities. They'll call you 3 different times and they'll ask you the first. And basically, if you took a job, you had to go down south. They're building new prisons down in Southern California. So you had to take a job down there. They called me twice with different jobs at Blythe and different places like, El Centro and stuff like that. And I didn't want to go down south because I had a family up here. So by the third time they called me, and it was Mule Creek up in Ione, which is Northern California. That's the job I took.
Well, that sounds so exciting, just being in that line of work and just how different it is from maybe what the expectation is. And what was it like? Because I understand you started working at Folsom. What was that like?
Well, Actually, I started at Mule Creek, and that was a new prison, a brand new prison. So it didn't really establish itself as having anything unordinary about. Just they had a lot of inmates there that were level threes. But when I transferred to Folsom, see, you couldn't even get to Folsom. You had to not just know somebody, you had to be related to somebody that worked at Folsom. That was a tight family there. So if you went to Folsom, they knew that you belonged there. And when I, but I didn't know a captain there. They got me over there. So when I went there, it's like going back to my school reunion. I met a lot of inmates that I went to school with that were working there, and I knew inmates that were doing time there. So it was like a big family. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, everyone knows everybody. You guys have
Yes.
worked there for a while.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. It was very tight niched.
So then when did you make a move?
Well, I was at Mule Creek for like about 8 years, then I went to Folsom, and Folsom was I went from automatic push buttons to open the cell doors, all automatic new to Gothic. They built that prison. The prison was built on a rock quarry for granite. So they brought the inmates up there. They lived there, and then they built the prison themselves, cut in stone. All the granite was cut and dynamited right out of the quarry there. That which is now the yard, the main yard. And so I was in Block 5, which was the original oldest uh, building there, and it was all granite ceilings, granite walls, concrete floors, and they're little and heavy iron gates. So you had to key with a big key. So I went from push button to turning keys. You see, so it was a lot of work. I mean, you had to run up 5 tiers to get to emergency, run across the yard to another part of the institution. It was a big prison, but really gothic.
Wow, it sounds kind of like I'm gonna say this, like a kind of like a creepy place to be at sometimes, especially at night.
Yeah, I mean, well, the main thing was that they had this on the yard. It had the Greystone Chapel, which is, if you looked at it, you think it was like from some kind of scary movie because it's like a Gothic. It got the big pillars. It's all granite, and that was in the daytime was kind of a little scary because you had to go in there, search it for the inmates go in there because different denominations use that chapel all the time. But what I noticed about that chapel, they had a mural painted up on the front up there, a big mural of the Last Supper. And when I started looking at that, and I talked to some of the inmates there, the guy that used shoe polish to paint that mural up there, he painted the faces of most of the guys doing time there, doing life.
Okay. Well, that is super, super creepy. And I know we've talked about this before because that's the Last Supper. So you
Yes,
have this depiction of the Last Supper that one of the inmates drew on the wall, and it is depicting some of the people, the faces of some of the people who
are doing
are
time there, doing life.
really horrible criminals.
Yes, exactly. And but I noticed that was a really strange place, but I didn't. But that time I didn't understand the whole supernatural. I didn't see ghosts. I didn't believe in that stuff. I just never knew it because I didn't make myself aware of it. Um, then there was a time where I was at Folsom, and the 5 block had was the first death row. Now San Quentin was older than Folsom, but Folsom was just as old as 1850s. So, but the original death row is at Folsom, and death row there consisted of a big iron gate. You had a big gate you had to open up and do a pull bar that ran through the concrete, granite. I'm sorry, granite, and there were 13 cells in there, and 13 cells. There were 13 steps that went up to the gallows, which is a wooden beam across there, and there was then when they ever hung somebody, they rang the bell 13 times. 13 is a powerful number there. I don't know why, but it has some kind of meaning for anything to do with prison or death row.
So, did you ever hear or witness yourself anything supernatural there?
There was things happening around me, but I was thinking, oh, I was working 16 hours. I worked back to back 16s. And I thought I was tired. I thought it was like, I see like a little flash. Well, I'd be back in the back in the storage room, and I see a little flash. I go, I thought my eyes were playing games with me, and my mind was. So I figured that it was just something I was overtired, and I didn't think nothing about it. But now later on, once I was aware of paranormal activity, I found that, you know what? I think the times I saw something, it was something, like, for instance, in the death row there, they had a 13 cell. So the one's going to be hung, everyone rotates up one cell to the next spot to closer to the gallows. And where the gallows was, this was granite too. It had granite ceilings, the weight as much as your car, granite walls, but they had a one little hole up at the top by the where the hangman was hung, and there was open a window that's open all the time, but you couldn't get out. It's too far up there, and there's bars on it. But from what I was told, that's that when the person gets hung, the spirit can go out the window. They didn't want it to be trapped there because the rule is that you didn't want to die in prison. You wanted to parole or get out of prison before you died. If you died there, your body would stay there forever.
Oh, wow. And to even think that far ahead at that time that, hey, when someone dies here, we want to make sure their spirit leaves. I mean, what
Yeah.
a thought process that is.
And so when I started doing these tours, like San Diego State Administration of Justice, people come up there all the time and they want to do a tour of the death row. I gave them a tour when they left, and I'd be cleaning up some things in there. And I feel to this day, I heard sounds of like chains and doors slamming up there, but there's nobody in there. So it's like only me. But I thought I was hearing things, or I was overly tired, So I didn't think about it much then. But now, no, that is a haunted little building right there, the death row. A lot of people died there.
I bet. I bet not just the people that were put to death, but just being there, I'm sure was a horrible place.
Well, the prison itself like in the 50s or even the 30s, 40s, 50s. They had ruthless murders in there. And they're not talking about riots they have today. These were convicts. These were not inmates that do this little stuff. These were convicts that planned their attack. They killed the warden one time. They killed the captain. They tried to overtake the prison. That's what they did all the time there in the 1800s, the 1920s, and 30s and 40s.
Wow. That
Yeah.
place has some history. Oh my
Oh yeah.
goodness.
A lot of history.
What made you decide to move then to San Quentin? Because that place has some history too.
Yeah, well, even though I was working a lot of overtime, San Quentin was offering. They come to us say, if anybody wants to come up and work at San Quentin on your days off, we'll pay them. Like, man, I can go from Folsom, work at Folsom, but on my days off, go to San Quentin and work back to back 16s on both days off, and go back to my job. So I thought, well, if I transferred there, I get probably a lot of overtime. And so, being that I was really single, I didn't have a family. I had my son, but overtime was big because I mean I could make a lot of money, and it's easy work, and so that's why I transferred there. I transferred there, and I finished out my career there too.
It sounds like maybe they have overtime because it's a place people don't really want to be.
They got so many jobs there, and they got the prisons. The prison is bigger than Folsom, but it's like, the thing about San Quentin, they have old buildings, but Folsom was like really old. They kept Folsom kept all their buildings. San Quentin, either they burnt down and they rebuild them. There are buildings that are old and Gothic, but not like Folsom. But that's the reason. That's not the reason, but I wanted to get out of Folsom because I was having to turn keys and run upstairs all the time. So I went to San Quentin. Make my life a little easier, baby.
I bet. I bet. Sounds like such I mean, kind of a dinosaur of a place going from that then to San Quentin and how things are so different.
But the thing was, is San Quentin's older than Folsom. You want to know it. If you went to San Quentin, it looks old, but you went to Folsom, you say, this prison is old, like really like castle days, the castle medieval days, like that.
Oh, wow. Well, can you describe the energy or the feeling of the prison at night?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. When you work death row, and I was up on the fifth tier, um, there's several incidents. Now, this is where I'm coming to my light. I'm seeing like now I know I'm tired, but I know I'm seeing things. I'm not hearing things, and I'm feeling things because at San Quentin, you're on the bay. So you know that there's a marine layer comes in every night. It's always kind of dripping, and the moisture fall and the fog is you can feel the fog on you. But there was something about it besides that. Like for instance, during one of my shifts on the San Quentin, I noticed a light was flickering down the tier. I'm like, this is they're in bed at 9 o'clock. You gotta be in bed. You gotta keep it silent, quiet. Everyone knows that there's no be racket ruckus on the tier. Um, I went down the tier, and for some reason, I noticed that the atmosphere it kind of felt heavy. You know, I sense this at this time now. I'm sensing this that there's something else that's very charged electricity, but I'm sensing the atmosphere is different. And so I get that cell on the light suddenly goes out. What? Well, I thought the inmate had a little light in there, but that was not an inmate cell. It was an empty cell we had there. And so I noticed that when I got there, I couldn't see in there. So I took my flashlight. Guess what? My flashlight don't even work. My flashlight's dead. That thing
Ooh.
never goes out. I always charge it every night or every day. So at nighttime, it's always going to work. Now I had no flashlight. And then I noticed that um, the flashlight, it wouldn't even come on. It wouldn't come on. But at that moment I heard, but see what I heard though in that cell was like a faint whisper, but I couldn't make it out. You hear a voice, like, but you can't make out the words. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of garbled, garbled, like for like a distant speaking. And I was like, what the heck? I couldn't even see, but the tiers have lights up there. So, but they flickered too. But I thought it was a flickering of that, but no, they were still on and flickering, but there was a light, it was on and it went out. So, so I, uh, I thought about it, and then I went up to the tier, I went up to the cell, and a shadowy, I don't know if it's a shadow or like a like you when you sense something like a light, if it's a quick light or a shadow. Well, I seen that in the dark though. I mean, here's the thing: I've been sitting in the dark, so I can't really see a figure or nothing. But I seen something like blurry moving in there, and then it was. I knew that it was a paranormal event because I know that at that second I felt the flow of wind blow past me. There's no
Ooh.
fans, but there's no fans in there. There's no airflow. The air is stagnant. It's still. But I know that when I seen that, it brushed right past me, and it went whew, a little wind. I go, that's not normal. That's freaky. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh. That makes the hair on my arms stand up just hearing that. No lights, you're hearing whispering going on.
I thought
There's nobody there.
I thought two inmates were talking down between the cells, but the one guy was asleep in his cell, and the other one was empty. So there ain't nobody talking, but I'm hearing someone talk back there. And then I got that cell. My flashlight don't work now. Why? It always works. It always is. I can count on it. So, but when I felt the breeze blow past me, that I knew was a, a paranormal event.
Well, I would expect with places like that that have such history that has repeated through those places. I mean, you're getting such heavy history of energy going through those.
Well, Marianne, it's like this. If you work the same building you're in every day, you know everything about it. You know everything about it. There's no airflow, and all of a sudden you've been up there like for 3 years 2 or 3 years there, and all of a sudden you feel a breeze going. Where'd that breeze come from? The building is locked up and there's no breeze blowing anywhere. There's something up.
So, if we look at your experiences personally at Folsom and San Quentin, what was the most chilling supernatural moment you had besides what we're talking about? Because that's pretty big.
Well, there's I have a couple of them, but I didn't come on to my beliefs until I started looking for it. Now, when I wasn't looking for it, I ignored it all. I'd never seen this stuff. I just thought I was tired. But then when I started realizing and acknowledging it, and I talked to other officers that see these paranormal events, I say, maybe there is some of this. So this priest comes up there on my tier. Where I'm talking to my partner up there. A Catholic priest comes up there like at 8 o'clock at night. He tells me, we're talking about these sightings of the ghosts and stuff. He walks in there and he goes, "Yeah, I was listening to what you're talking about." I go, "Well, what was that?" "Well, you see ghosts and stuff here." I go, "Well, I've never seen a ghost, but we feel that there's entities on the tier at times." He goes, "Well, I come here every day. When I pull in that parking lot, I know that when I pray and put my cloaking device on, which is my defense, because I see two black entities on both ends of the death row, at each end of the death row, sitting up there, and I know that they're waiting for somebody's um, um, they're waiting for them to come if they die, to get their spirit to take it away." And I go, "Do you see spirits? You think they're waiting for spirits?" "Yeah, because they can actually latch onto you, and you can take them home and not even know they're on you, and release it into your own house."
Oh my gosh.
I was like, that put chills on my back knowing that. And this guy is a no nonsense Catholic priest. He don't joke around. He's talking straight and clear that that's what he does every day when he comes to death row.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so now I've got the creeps. So now I've got the creeps.
But
Well,
I didn't have the creeps, but I didn't get this way until I started noticing things, because I knew I wasn't tired sometimes, and I started seeing things, little flashes, little movements here and there, real quick. I catch it on my edge of my eye. Started catching that all the time, and then when you become aware of it, you're seeing it all the time now. Now I'm seeing it all the time.
I bet because now it's more in your awareness. So when you hear whispering or see lights flickering
Yep.
or something that you catch by the corner of your eye, you're
Or
like, wait a minute, that's not normal.
hear keys opening up cell doors on your tier, and you're the only one with keys up there. Why would I hear keys?
Woo!
Yes. I mean, there was another incident that happened. I was in the tower, tower 10. It runs a Sallyport gate. And now, like I said, when you are confined to your area all the time, you know everything that happens around you. You know there's some raccoons over there, and there's some little foxes that run over there, and you know that this inmate comes out one time at time of the night to do his thing. You know everything going on in the prison yard and outside the prison. And so I'm out there looking out across the property. It was like there's like 50 acres, but there's a old tower on one of the hills out there that's been condemned since 1940. It's been there from the 1800s. It's a big tower, like one of those fire watch towers, big one. It takes like 5 minutes to get up there, zigzagging up the stairwells to get up there. And I'm looking around. It's nighttime, and I see a light in the tower on in this condemned tower, and no one ever goes up to. So I called my watch commander and said, "Hey, um, one of the towers, the abandoned ones, has a light up in there." He goes, "Why don't you call the fire department and have them come look at it?" So I called the fire department. They rushed out there. Well, they didn't rush, but they drove out there, and I see that they're looking in still flashlights. They can't find nothing. So I called the watch commander to call plant ops. Well, they have a 24-hour plant ops out there, and they went out there. And by the time that half an hour came by, they had called PG&E, Marin Electrical. They had the lights on this thing, and they were out there like a crime scene. And they came back to me and they said, "We had all our technology out there trying to find this power source. We opened up the circuit breakers. There are no breakers in the circuit box. There's no electrical. We can't find an electrical source going to the tower, but we can't explain why the light's on in there." "Well,
Whoa.
what do you want me to put in the report?" "Just say San Quentin. They don't know what don't know what they're talking about." Yeah, they looked. They were out there for an hour or two trying to find a power source. There's no power in the ground anywhere going to, and the lights comes on in a bulb. Can you
Wow.
explain that?
No, I can't. Well, and so what happened? Did it just stay on or what happened?
It stayed on, and then it would come on certain times of night and go off. They had no one that can explain it. You had the professionals out there. They deal with electrical. PG&E, come on, they would find it. They could not find any power out electrical source going to that tower.
Well, that sounds really weird that it would come on just whenever at certain times at night when you are working around or but it wasn't all the time, right?
No, it was randomly. But the thing was is that the fact that it came on just once, it didn't have to be all the time. I was thinking, you know what? For whatever reason, there is an entity out there. I don't know if it's a guard or somebody else, but someone died around that area out there and they're locked there and they're doing that, turn that light on so they can get attention. Come, hey, look at me, I'm still here. That's my way of thinking.
Ooh. Ooh, I got the creeps. So
Yeah.
so, I mean, I would think that the history of both Folsom and San Quentin really shaped the atmosphere you felt on the job. I mean, my goodness.
Well, ghosts or paranormal activity, all that stuff. That's one thing, but you had a lot of people from the 1800s. I'm saying 1850s. They were murdered there. They died there. I mean, there's thousands of inmates and officers that were killed there in that prison. It's not a place that is a lovely place, but it's a place where people come together and either you like them or you don't. Their spirits are still there. They might be trapped there too. So that's why when I became aware of it, I just was respectful even more about the people and the prison itself because I don't want to basically make any spirits mad. I don't want to make anybody mad. I just wanted, hey, you're here, I acknowledge you, and I pray for you. That's all I could do. I was working Tower 8, which is a tower that sits on the water. It's not in the water, but on the edge of the wall. And I could see the Bay Bridge being built. I could see Richmond in that area, but it's right on the water. And so at 9 o'clock, again, it's always at 9 o'clock, right before we all go home, because everyone's being counted before we leave. The whole prison is being counted, institutional count. So you would have like a lot of people getting ready to go home and stuff, but they always do this right at 9 o'clock, 8 or 9 o'clock. And so my tower faced the old infirmary. They've been shut down since the 50s. That infirmary was like it's like a 5-tier infirmary that has a gothic look to it on my side. So one day I'm looking around, I'm just doing looking at writing some stuff in my logbook and making my phone calls, and I noticed there's a flashlight up on the fifth tier. I think it's a 4 tier. I think it's 4 stories. I'm not too sure, but I see a flashlight go across the window up there, and like, did I just see something? Am I seeing this? Am I seeing anything? Is my overtime affecting me now already in the tower? And I see him go down the flashlight go across the window. So I called the watch commander. He's probably getting tired of me, thinking I'm going crazy out there. They're gonna check me now, So I said, "Hey, you have something? You have any officers up in the fifth or fourth tier? That place is." He goes, "That place has been condemned for so long. There's no power up there." I go, "Well, I seen a flashlight go across the window." So he sends like 2 COs up there, correctional officers up there to check it out. And I see the flashlights moving around. I see that they're up there. And like 10 o'clock comes, they leave. I go, what did they find? They found no one up there. There's no one up there. No one's up there with a flashlight. I don't know what you saw up there, but we didn't find anybody up there. Then another night, the same place, I get a phone call from the third tier of the old infirmary. It says, infirmary, third tier infirmary. I go, why is this number calling me? Who's up there? So I call the watch commander again. I say, hey, I got a phone call on my digital display. It says infirmary number 3 floor. They go up there. They send 2 officers up there. I see flashlights moving around. And then 10 o'clock, they stop looking around and I go, what happened? I don't know where that phone call came from, but there is no phone in the place. First of all, in any part of that building, there's no power in that building. You have to go with flashlights. There's no power in there. I go, that's strange. Why would I get a phone call from the old infirmary, third floor? That's another thing that was creepy about that.
Ooh. Especially when there's, I mean, I know we've talked about this one before, but there's like no working phones there, right?
No working phones. It's a hall building. They took out all the chairs, the beds. It's abandoned.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I was thinking, I was thinking of the wiring. I'm thinking, well, how it must be the wiring somewhere in the walls. They don't have a phone. Maybe it's got a short circuit to dial my tower. I don't know. But that don't make sense. You had to dial the number to come from that infirmary.
Did you ever answer the call?
Yeah, I picked it up. There's no one online. There was no one online. And
Ooh.
The thing was is that you're going to pick up the phone. You say, I go, Tower 8, how can I help you? But that one, I said, yes, hello. It just silence. There was no static, no one talking, just silence. So I don't know. You couldn't call from another building and transfer a line to make it look like infirmary calling to me. That has to be called from that building and that phone. So I
Mm.
think that the entities that died in that hospital, I'm the only one looking at the infirmary because I'm the tower. I'm a live person. I'm looking at them. They're looking at me. I really feel that they want to get my attention because they want to be recognized. But again, I think kind of strange like that. You know.
Well, you have to think something because these things are happening and no one can really explain why they're happening. Were the other guards having similar experiences? Do you guys share these
Um,
experiences with each other?
when you get to a close knit group of people that work the same building, you talk about things like that. But there was a couple people in death row that were they have the knack of picking up spirits and seeing them more than I did. They did see people, yeah. They saw inmates that died like 40 years ago walking down a tier, and they see it repeatedly. So we talked about it, but you didn't really talk about it because one, you didn't want to think about people that you think you're wacko. And before, if I heard an inmate talking to us, like I talk to an inmate, I hear him talking to somebody in a cell. I go, "Who are you talking to?" "Oh, I'm talking to this inmate." "What inmate?" And they go, "Cain, you just don't get it, do you?" "No, I don't." So I put him in for a psych referral, do the paperwork, and have the psychs come out and talk to him why he's talking to himself. But now I think about that wasn't he probably did have an inmate in the cell talking to him, because he's there every day. And his mind, his subconscious is more aware. He knocked out the consciousness and lets his subconscious figure it out. There is somebody here. But
Mm-mm-mm.
they were right. I was wrong.
Well, it's really hard to look at things that way when you're in it. Here
Yeah.
you're doing this job and you're expected to show up. Because I'm sure if you started reporting, hey, there's some paranormal stuff happening on the fourth floor, they're going to put you in for a psych eval, right?
I would never call and say that. That's for darn sure. They would do that exactly. Because you got, you know, lots of psychiatrists there all the time and social workers and psychologists. So I wouldn't want to put myself in that situation. But I know that when I did a referral because somebody's not acting right or talking to somebody, I was the one that was wrong. They were right.
Ooh. All these years later to be able to discover that, that must really kind of put things in a different perspective for you.
Well, it does. I mean, even to this day, I don't work there. I retired from there, but it's like even in my own house, we had ghosts here before. My wife, she does hypnosis. She's a life coach. She does all that stuff, and she's always had the awareness of their ghost. And there's been times where went down the hall, and we have a little picture on a wall, and the only way you have to bump it to make a little rub it on against the wall. And I was going down the hall, wasn't near that, and he went. I go, so I stopped. I looked down the hall and I was looking for, I didn't see nothing. And I go, we got ghosts in this house again. And I told her about it. And she said that it was the same night that something was telling her about waking up or something like that. She didn't want to deal with it. So sometimes we have to sage our house. I don't want to be, weird about that, but we sage our house just to get all the spirits out of the house. That, 'cause you get people coming to your house, you don't want them to bring something to your house. So you got to do it randomly, sage your house.
No, you just don't know what people are bringing in with them.
You
And
don't.
just like they talked about, you can end up having something attached to somebody else and say, hey, I like this family better. I think I'll stick with them.
Exactly, but I didn't want the death row inmates coming down my house. And I don't even know. I could have had them. I could have been bringing them home for years, and they didn't know about it. Because I wasn't aware of it.
So, if you look at San Quentin, was there like one portion of the prison that was rumored to be the most haunted?
Well, the chow hall, it's not really haunted, but they have five big walls that divides the chow hall, and each side of the chow hall is like can seat like 100 inmates. So you got 500 inmates at one time eating the chow hall, and there's a wall between all of them, and Now there was a guy he paroled a long time ago, but he took shoe polish, black shoe polish, and he did murals on all both sides of the walls, all five walls. They're like 20 feet up in the air. They're big walls. And he worked on it this whole time that he was doing time there, lifetime, his life, he's a lifer. And he put he did the from the say the 40, no, the 20s to the 40s of the history of California. And then he did a great job. 'Cause, I mean, this guy must have been an artist because doing using shoe polish to put the murals and the faces on them. But when I noticed that when you walk from one side of Chow Hall to the other, there's a lady, but most of them there's a lady in there, but all of them have the eyes. The eyes from the front part of the Chow Hall to the back follow you all the way. No matter where you're at, she's looking at you.
Oh my goodness. That's kinda creepy because you're going in there to eat and you've got these eyes that are just
Yeah,
following you as you
and
move from one portion to the other.
they're big murals over there. They got the whole World War II scenes and the Smithsonian Institute. I think it's in Chicago, the main one. They bought the rights to those walls, so you can't damage them. They own those walls, the Smithsonian Institute.
Oh my goodness.
And then the
Well,
guy, when he paroled, he finally paroled. The state paid him to come back and finish the murals too.
oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty remarkable. Did you ever come across any like unexplained sounds or smells or sensations that really kind of stuck with you?
that's all the time. I mean, when you smell something being burnt and there's no fires on your tier or the part of the building you're working, or musky, why would you have musky, wet smell in a dry part of the prison? You work in a culinary in the kitchen, and there's smells. There's so many different smells in prison. You don't know if it's the smell because it's old or is it smells from something else. You don't know. It just really has a pungent smell sometimes. Because the
Wow.
prison, they don't have house cleaners come in and clean that place. The inmates clean it all themselves. I've had a work cruise of 20 guys, and I say, hey, we're gonna strip these floors, mop them, and do all that stuff. And I have 20 guys working there stripping floors and waxing, well, not waxing, but buffing. And he thinks they have a nice smell, but it still has a smell, a pungent smell from 150 years of being there. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But I'm sure because, like you were saying earlier, since you're there all the time, this is your section that you work in, you know it inside and out. So if anything's happening or there's any changes, you can detect it right away.
Yeah. I mean, smells are always it kind of blend it kind of neutralizes because of so many different smells. But I noticed that there's breezes, little flows of air where there shouldn't be any airflow. That's what I found that was really strange. That why did I just walk in this building and then a brush of fresh air flew right past me, and I was like, where'd that come from? I'm thinking, where did that come from? You know, there's no airflow here. There's no fans. There's no heat and air there. They have no air conditioning. It just right across your face or right across your body.
Mm, 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 mm. How have all these encounters just affected your views on life, death, and the afterlife?
I have a lot of respect for the afterlife because I really feel that the afterlife, it's always been there. It's not even an afterlife. The spirits are always been there. It's the person that makes it aware. Are they there or not? I have a lot of respect. I'll tell you that much. I mean, now that I know about it, now that I'm aware of it, I make it aware. I make it that I let them know that I see you and I acknowledge you. I let them know that.
Oh my
I,
goodness.
I don't really think they can hurt you. I never heard of any spirits or any ghosts hurting anybody, but they'll do things. They'll knock something over, something will fall over. They'll make it. They'll make it known. They'll make it known that they're there.
Were there times where you kind of questioned your own senses with some of the stuff happening?
Yeah, I mean the transition between not believing and believing. There's a little segment in there like, is it me that's doing this, or am I aware of what's going on here? That it messes with your brain because you're messing with your mind because you're trying to think, is this real or not? But it wasn't until little things that happened in my past that made me aware of it, and it changed me to this day too. I mean, I have a lot of respect. I mean, well, I don't have like lots of respect, but I just make it aware that I know that they're there, and I don't do anything to bring them in, but I am aware of them. And if I like, we're at the Washoe Hotel up in Virginia City. That building, that hotel's been there since the 1800s. A lot of people died in that hotel, but there's a there's a big mirror on this bar. It goes from one end to the other from the 1800s. And I sit back and I went back against the wall and I looked in that mirror. And I was trying to see if there's anything that's looking at me or any kind of movement in the mirror, because it's been there since 150 years, But that's what I do now. I look for any kind of paranormal activity anywhere I go now. I don't go out of my way, but I look for it now.
Well, it makes sense when things happen. You're like, why does that happen? What's going on here? Where is this coming from? So I can understand the whole thought process behind looking at things a little bit differently because once you start looking things through a paranormal scope or just a scope that there could be something that I can't see because our human vision is so short in range and our
Yes.
hearing as well, that there are other things happening that are just beyond my scope of understanding.
Well, I don't even say, oh, I don't even question. I go, if something happens like that, I go, there's a spirit. There's something here. I know that there's some kind of paranormal activity going on right now. And I'll say, look at my wife and say, you see that? Yep, we'll do that. We agree to it.
Oh my goodness. If you could take someone into the environment that you worked in, like in these prisons at nighttime, what would you want them to witness or understand about what you experienced?
I wouldn't have to show them a ghost, or I mean, if I could find one, but I would go into like San Quentin or Folsom, the old tiers I worked, and like the old one, the building five, the first one that part of the first building they built, and I'd take him in there because all the lights at nighttime go down to like a dull orange light, and take him into one of them empty cells, and I'd have him sit and listen. Just listen to the empty. Listen to what it's empty cell and listen to what's going on around you. And all of a sudden, you'll start. If you listen and tune into it, you'll hear things that you're like, "What's that? Exactly. What is that? What is that sound of keys or chains or a door slamming when you're the only one there?" I show them that. I take them there and do that.
Well, that definitely would be a very interesting place. I don't think I could do it. My hat's off to you. You're a very brave guy for doing the type of work that you did. It sounds like it, not just the work itself, but all of it could be a little bit, I think it would be kind of scary.
Yeah, I will say that I've never talked about this to anybody. To my wife, yes, but you asking me these questions, it brings up a lot of things in the past that I forgot about, and it's like I was kind of, not sure about going on this radio show with you, but I mean, it's like now that I'm talking about it, it actually kind of frees me a little bit. Like, you know what? I'm gonna talk about it. Now I can talk about it. It's something that happened in the past, and I'm not going to deny it.
I mean, we've talked before, and I've been in places where I was actually shopping one time and got shoved. And I turned around and there was nobody there.
Oh,
And I was looking around going, what just happened?
that happened to me at the American Tire one time, like 10 years, no, 15 years ago. I was standing in line to check my tires, and there's only two people, me and the guy in front, and we're looking at the counter. And a lady comes back, taps my shoulder, and goes, "Do you know how long they're going to take?" I go, "Well, let me ask the lady guy up there," and turned to talk to the guy, and he wasn't there. And I looked back, she disappeared. I went out to the front door. How could this little old lady tap me on my shoulder and be gone? Like she had to run, sprint. There was no cars or anything. It was her tapping me on my shoulder, and she wanted to let. I think she wanted to let me know. I don't know. She honestly, I think she kind of felt evil to me. She wasn't a good one. She felt like it was an evil feel. You know what I mean? Someone's testing me or
Mhm.
something.
A little
That,
creepy. Yeah.
that was really creepy. Yes.
I say go with your gut. If I'm in a place and I'm feeling kind of creepy, I'm like, I don't think I want to be here.
Yeah. Don't go by it with your mind. Go with your gut. Your gut's always truthful.
Well, Greg, my goodness, you're such an inspiration. And I really appreciate you sharing these very personal stories with us and just your experience. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
It was a pleasure, and I'm glad you are able to get that information out of me.
Well, thank you, Gregory Alan Cain. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about ghost stories from haunted prisons. Make sure to visit Gregory Allen's website at gregoryalancain.com, be part of his community, of course, pick up one of his books, and learn more about his work. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.